You're Moderna or Pfizer? Even though they haven't said get a booster. They haven't said get a booster yet.
Yeah, but, I mean, because you're going to go up to Yuma, right? Okay.
It wasn't a booster, it was actually just because I think the booster is going to be less. Sure. I'm not ready, it's going to be half this. Just wondering if I should just do it. So. How we doing there, John?
Good. Ready.
Giants got one.
Yeah. It goes either way, right?
Okay, Shabbat Shalom. If everyone would go ahead and find a seat. All right, Shabbat Shalom to you who are here and those who might be watching on YouTube. Welcome to Shabbat morning services at Temple Beth Abraham. Today, Ruthie Feldhammer will be coming by, and she'll be leading much of the service. Some procedural things to just sort of get out of the way. I'll probably have to announce them a few times. But first of all, if there's an emergency, exits are kind of everywhere. Here, there, out the front center. So there's lots of places to go should there be an emergency. Number two, this is, of course, being streamed out to the internet, which means that everything you say is possible that can be heard. So be aware of that. Also means try not to walk directly in front of the camera or block the actual camera. Finally, and although this seems very incongruent, we've got a computer monitoring this, we've got a camera here, but we still would like you not to use your phones or take any pictures. That's not what Shabbat is all about. This is our concession to COVID and to making sure that people all over the world can still see it, and that's why we have this minimal electronic setup. But that doesn't mean it's a free-for-all with phones. Put your phones on silent prayer mode or whatever you wish to make sure that they're not part of the service. Ruthie will be leading much of the service. I will be beginning the service, and also cousin Cantor Joel Stein will also be leading parts of it. Please keep your masks on at all times. Even if you're reading Torah or chanting an Aliyah, other than Ruthie and immediate family and Cantor Joel, the rest of us, and myself when I'm in this position, we will have our masks off for leading, but at all other times, if everyone would wear them, we greatly appreciate it. I love that you're sitting so close to me, but you don't have to. You want to spread all the way throughout the sanctuary, that's okay too, whatever you want to do to make you feel comfortable. All right, we're going to begin with page 73, our morning blessings. Please rise. Please rise. Baruch atah Adonai l'olam, asher natan l'sefir alefim von yom u'v'layla. Baruch atah Adonai l'olam, shesani b'tzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai l'olam, shesani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai l'olam, shesani ben Chorim. Baruch atah Adonai l'olam, pokech ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai l'olam, abi shelomim. Baruch atah Adonai l'olam, matir asumim. Baruch atah Adonai l'olam, zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai l'olam, bokar aretz ha'mayim. Baruch atah Adonai l'olam, shesali kol tzarki. Baruch atah Adonai l'olam, hamchim tzarek gaver. Baruch atah Adonai l'olam, ozer Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai l'olam, ozer Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai l'olam, anotin le'ayef koah. We may be seated. Actually, we may be seated, but we're going to jump all the way to page 134. Hallelujah, 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 b'kodsho, hallelujah, hallelujah, b'ki yahuzo, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 b'gvurotav, hallelujah, hallelujah, kerov kulo, hallelujah, 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 b'tei kashofar. Hallelujah, hallelujah, nevel vechinor. Hallelujah, 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 betov umachor. Hallelujah, hallelujah, meaning ve'ugav. Hallelujah, 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 b'tzil tzalei shama. Hallelujah, hallelujah, b'tzil tzalei trua. Kol anshamate hallelujah, Kol haneshama hallelujah, kol haneshama hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol haneshama hallelujah, hallelujah. Page 143. Nishmat kol chai tivarech et shimcha. Page 147. Yitmelach, umi yeshvelach, umi yarov lach. Ayel hagadol boroi, kol shamayim va'aretz. Na'alecha, shvecha chanfercha nevrachet shem kodshecha, kamol adibit barchi nefshet Adonai. V'chol kravayet shem kodsho. Ayel b'tatzimot uzecha, hagadol mikvod shemecha. Hagibor lanetzach v'na'obratecha. Melech yoshev al kisei, Ram v'nisa. Shochen Marom, v'kadosh Shemo. V'chad shemron tzadikim b'Adonai, l'sharim navat tehila. V'fi yesharim titala, u'divrei tzadikim titbarach. U'bishol chasidim titromam, u'v'keret kedoshim titkadash. U'makalot rivevot amcha bein Yisrael. Great Parashat Chamakin B'chol Dor Vador. Sheken Chavad Koyitzrim Lefanecha L'Naileinu V'Lavei Avotenu. Lehotel Halel L'Shabeach. Lefaher L'Romem L'Ader. Levarech L'Alev Koles. Al Kol Divrei Shirot V'Tishmachot. Avi Ben Yishai Avdecha. V'Shichecha. Yishtabach Shimcha. Ve'Admakenu. Ha'el HaMelech HaKadosh, HaKadosh B'Shamayim B'Aretz, Ki L'chaner, Ha'eloheinu V'Lavei Avotenu. Shiru Shmacha, Olev V'Zimra, Ozuk V'Mshelah, Netzach Kedula Gvurat, L'Vat Tiferet, Kedusha U'Malchut, Rachot Ve'Odao, Ve'ata Ve'Adon. Baruch Atah Adonai, Emelech Adon HaTishbachot, El HaOdaot Adon HaNiflaot, HaBocher B'Shirei Zimra, Melech Elkei HaOlamim. 151. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah. Yom hanivrach Yerutei v'yamlech malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayechon Beit Yisrael. V'galav izman karev v'meru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam amen amayah. Barach v'shabach v'baram v'naseh v'tadar v'taleh v'talach shmei Kedusha v'richu. Le'lam minkom berchata v'shirata. Jushbechata v'nechemata, v'amiran be'alma v'meru. Amen. Please rise for the Baruch Hu, formal call to prayer on page 152. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'en. Be seated. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach. Yotzor v'choshech v'aseh shalom v'baret hakol. Hakol yoducha v'hakol yishalucha. I know, looking at the Baruch Hu, just looking straight at the lock. I'm on page 154. Ein ke'erkecha ve'ein zulatecha, efes biltecha, umi domelach. Ein ke'erkecha ve'ein zulatecha, efes biltecha, umi domelach. Ein ke'erkecha Elohim elam hazeh, ve'ein zulatecha malkin chayei olam haba. Efes biltecha golenu limod al Mashiach. בנו מלך המשיח תחיית המתים. אל אדון על כל המעשים ברוך ומבורך בפי קודש עמה גודלו וטובו מלא עולם דעת ותבונה סובב בימותו המתגאה על חיות הקודש ונדר בכבוד על המרכבה זכות ומישור לפני חיסו חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו יצרם בדעת כוח וגבורה נתן בהם להיות מושלים בקרב תבל מלאים זיו ודביקים נוגה נעזיבם בכל העולם שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם עושים בהם הרצון קונם הערב וכבוד נותנים לשמו תולה ורינה לזכר מלכותו קרא לשמש ויזרח אורה והקים צורה אלמנה שבח נותנים לו כל צבא מערום תפארת וגדולה סרפים ואופנים וחיות הקודש ראש השבת מכל המעשים. ברוך השם שש מעשה ידיך ואומר אשר שעשית ברוך הסלע on the top of 159 now. תתברך טובנו מלכנו וגואלנו בורא קדושים ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו. וכולם פותחים את פיהם בקדושה וטהרה בשירה ובזמרה מפרחים ומשבחים ומפארים ומריצים ומקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול הגמור והנורא הקדוש הוא. וכולם מקבלים עליהם המלכות שלהם זה מזה ונותנים רשות זה לזה להקדיש את עצמם בנחת רוח בשפה פרעה ובנימה קדושה כולם כחרונים ואומרים ביראה קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלך הארץ כבודו. בפנים הקודש פרש קרוב נסים למצרפים למטה משבחים ואומרים ברוך כבוד אדוני במקום רוחותינו. 162 אור חדש על ציון תאיר אור חדש על ציון תאיר ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו מהרה לאורו ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות. 163 אהבתנו אדוני אלוהינו כמלה גדולה ותורה קמת עלינו אבינו מלכנו בעבור אבותינו שבטנו בך אבינו מלכנו ותלמדנו חוקי חיים כן תכוננו למדנו אבינו אהבה רחמן אמרחם רחם עלינו ותן ללבנו להאמין ולהשכיל לשמוע ללמוד וללמד לשמור ולעשות ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה והאר עינינו בתורתך נתאבן בינינו במצוותיך ויחד למעננו ויאהבה ויראת את שמך ולא נבוש לעולם ועד ולא נבוש לעולם ועד כי בשם I'd like to call upon Eliana, Haley, and Maya, cousins, why don't you come up here at this time? In a moment, we'll be doing the Shema, so just go ahead and stand up here. Ve'avienu l'shalom, me'arba kanfot haaretz, ve'tolichenu kol memiut le'artzeinu, ki el po'el yeshu'ata, uvanu v'charta mikol ve'lashon, ve'ke'aftanu l'shimcha ha'gadol selah ve'emet, le'hodu lecha, u'yachecha ve'ahava, Baruch atah Adonai, Havocher be'am Yisrael, ve'ahava. Yashakoah. Continue silently on pages 167 to 169. You can be seated. I'd like to call upon Cantor Joel Henry Stein to come up to the center table. We're going to be on page 173. He's going to lead the next parts of the service, starting with the Mikamoka. Moshe ben Israel Chanashura B'Simcha Rabbah Me'amdu We're on 173.
Mi chamocha, Vaylim Adonai, Mi kamocha, נדר בקודש, נורתי לו, אוסף אלה, נורתי לו, אוסף אלה, שירה חדשה, שירכו גאולים, לשמחה, לשמחה, עד שפת הים, יחק למודו, ילכו ואמרו, אדוני לו, לעולם ועד, ילאי, ללאי,
out loud together.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה והושיע, משיב הרוח מוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מחמוך בת גבורות, ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים.
נקדש את שמך בעולם,
שמקישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ, כבודו.
אז בכל רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מתנסים לעומת צרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני במקומו, במקום חמלכנו, טוב ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך, מתי תמלוך בציון, ותשכון, תגדל ותקדש, בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור, ולנצח נצחים, ועינינו תראנה מלכותך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך, על ידי דוד משיח צדקך, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נעתיש, ושפחך אלוהינו מפינו לעמוס לעולם ועד, כמלך הקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. We continue silently on our own, pages 181 through 192. It's also a good time for private meditation and prayer.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Yasher Koach. Our new Kaddish Shalom on page 193.
יקדש ויקדש שמך רבה, ועל מה דברכותי ועל מחמלכותי וחייכון וברכון. חיי כל בית ישראל בגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו יהי שמרה במברך ועל עולמי המאיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ורומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלש ולקודשה לעילם כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה ימירן בעלמה ואמרו תקבץ דורתון וברתון לכל ישראל, קודם עוון, תמשמעיה ואמרו. יהי שלמה רבה משמעיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו.
All right, you may be seated. It's wonderful to have a Hazan in your family. So thank you, Hazan Joel Henry Stein. And in a moment, we'll be beginning our Torah service. I'm going to make a few announcements that if you were here at the beginning, I will be repeating. There's an emergency. Exits are basically all over the place, in every corner, right out here, this door here, and even back through the center aisle. Be aware there's a camera. This whole thing is going out to YouTube, so it's possible that anything you say can be overheard. And also try not to walk right in front of it if you can avoid it, as it will block it. Masks must be worn at all times, except by the leaders, but even the Torah readers and Aliyot people should keep them on if possible. You're welcome to spread out all the way throughout the sanctuary, depending on your comfortability with all this stuff. You can even go to the balcony if you want to or need to. This sanctuary seats 800 people, so you're welcome to sit next to your friends and family with masks on, but if you feel more comfortable, more spread out, feel free to do that. Change your mind in the middle of the service, you can do that too. It's really absolutely fine. So despite the fact that we have a camera that's going out to the internet, this may seem incongruous, but please don't take pictures, please don't use your phones during the service. Even if you can catch the man on the laptop, Josh Mailman, who is our volunteer, who is streaming everything, I know he's using that stuff, but we want to maintain the Shabbat atmosphere. And the only reason we have this is a concession to the fact that not everybody could be here. So that's why we do have these things. So Ruthie is about to get up there. Oh, great Kodak moment. I mean, Apple moment. I don't know what they call it today. But whatever it is, keep them put away and turn it off. But at this time, we are going to call upon our bat mitzvah, Ruth and parents, John and Rachel, and they will take off their masks to present the talit to our all one family. I'll try to move the microphone up to Feldhammer height. So Ruth, why don't you stand right here?
When you were born, your hair stood up straight, and you unmistakably looked like you'd taken a detour in the birthing process to have your tips bleached blonde. That was our first indication that you were going to be a thunderbolt in our life. Your first words were no. No, I don't want to wear my brother's clothes. No, I don't need to go potty. You were like a toddler storm, dressed in a princess dress, covered in dirt. As you've grown up, it's been a pleasure to watch your storm transform into your secret weapon. Your intensity of passion, focus, and creativity. You fearlessly make the hardest recipes, from croissants to bagels, recreating the Great British Baking Show, and recently winning an award in a baking competition. You focus intensely on learning, then improving at a skill, drawing, painting, or horticulture, practically turning your room into a terrarium. Outside of your family, you've built a community of like-minded friends who share your passions and are joining you today to celebrate. I want you to know how proud we are of the zeal, determination, and hard work you bring to every project you're passionate about. I would like to thank my mother for crocheting this beautiful talit for you as you become a Jewish adult today. I hope you will continue to harness your powers towards repairing the world through human actions, such as tzedakah, justice and righteousness, and acts of loving kindness. As you know, the Jewish tradition believes that each person has a hand in working towards the betterment of our own existence and the lives of our future generations. May you funnel your passion, creativity, and hard work towards making this world a better place.
Ruth, it has been a pleasure to watch you grow. Watching the traits that make you Ruth develop and grow. Now you are becoming a bar mitzvah. As I reflected on your life and what I should share with our community about who Ruth is, I landed on a trait that I admire. That trait, it might not be what you admire right now, but it's stubbornness. Many people, and I think even you included, view being stubborn as negative. I don't. People of determination, decisiveness, and passion have this trait. It is a well from which a great many things come from. Of course, stubbornness doesn't always have the most beneficial or productive beginning. I will never forget when you were only a few years old, you held up a wedge of lemon and said, "Orange," added it to eat it. Your mother and I pointed out that it was in fact a lemon, but no, you insisted it was an orange. So we shrugged. You took a big bite of that nice, juicy lemon. I've never seen a wince quite like that before, or since. But this is how things begin in childhood. You have moved past that and developed. Now that stubbornness has become more. For example, persistence. You have been persistent in your preparation to become a bar mitzvah. You're persistent with your studies in school and in your hobbies. Stubbornness can be even used for more. It can be the basis of doing the right thing, even when it is not popular. To hold true to what you know is right, even when the masses say it's wrong. It isn't popular to be a Jew. It is not in fashion, if it ever has been. So I ask you, be stubborn, do the right thing, and be a Jew. Continue to make your namesake and your parents, your grandparents, and your parents proud. I love you very much.
Now go ahead and say the blessing for the Talib. I'll go get one.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirishani b'mitzvotav v'tzivani u'b'chati tev b'tzitzi.
Amen. All right, so yeah, go ahead and put it on, and yep, sounds good. I guess it's often the parents stay to make sure it's on to their liking, but I guess in your case, you might not listen to them anyways. All right, so we are now going to get ready to begin our Torah service. This is on page 195, and Ruth, you can take your mask off if you lead our congregation. I'm going to take it all the way off. And at this time, I'd like to call upon aunts, or aunt and great aunt, Jamie Feldhammer and Beth Osmond, to come stand by the ark in preparation for its opening. And Marshall, why don't you, or Susan's up there, so we're all ready for action. All right, 195, Ein Kamocha.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kama'aseha, malchutecha malchut olamim, u'mimshaltecha bechol dor v'ador. Adonai melech, Adonai melech, Adonai imlo, le'olam va'ed. Adonai Elohim Yisrael, Adonai Yivarech et Amo b'shalom. Aparachani heiti b'mirtzoncha etzilo. Dignei ha'olam Yerushalayim. Dignei ha'olam Yerushalayim. Divrei levad batamu, melech hamam v'nisa adon olamim.
We rise now as the ark is open.
Vayhi Aharon vayom Omer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, Ve'afutzu oivecha, Ve'anusu misanecha, mipanecha, Ki Mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki Mitzion tetzei Torah, U'devar Adonai, Yerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael, B'kedushato. Be'ana Ra'et, Ve'lish Kadisha, Kadisha Yakira, Anna Emma, Tishbachan, Yehei Ra'ava, Kadama, Detikra Libi, Vayoraita, V'tashli Mishalim, De'libi, Beliva Yeholamach Yisrael, V'tava L'chaim, Ve'lishma. Amen. Shema Yisrael.
Susan will now hand you the Sefer Torah. Then you'll do the Shema. But it's the secrets of our people. It has sustained us for generations. It's heavy, but it's a weight that's lightened slightly by the joy in observing the commandments. The weight of the Torah. Now, Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adoninu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Adonai iti, uleromema, Shema Yachdav.
All right, maybe seated. And if you take a moment to find this book that's in front of you, our 8-time Chumash, you can follow the Torah reading. We are at the beginning, but not the beginning of the beginning. But we are at the first Torah portion of the year. It is called Bereshit. It means in the beginning. And undoubtedly, most of you are very familiar with its content. The creation of the world, the story of Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden, Cain and Abel. But we are reading none of that today because we are in what's called the triennial cycle here at this conservative congregation. And this year begins all the third thirds. And so instead of the exciting drama, you get mostly a list, a giant list of the generations and who lived when. All kinds of names. Some of you might have vaguely heard of, others maybe not at all, although in the end, you get a part that you probably have never noticed, this whole thing that sounds a lot more like Greek mythology than it does Judaism, where it talks about angels, children of gods, turning into giants and being with other human beings. It's very bizarre, part of where myth and history kind of intersect, and it's still pre-Judaism. The very first Aliyah, chapter 5, verses 1 through 5, it talks about how Adam had banim uvanot, sons and daughters. A lot of people ask the question, how did the species propagate when there was only Cain and Abel? Well, you just have to read a little further. In chapter 5, it says they had many sons and daughters, and therefore that's how there came to be all kinds of humans all over the world, according to the biblical story, which I digress, but the Torah is not a good science book. It's a good book about how to live, right, and truth, but not in the sense of it happened in this exact particular way. But so that's why you see this here. Lots of people will be called up for honors. We want you to leave your mat. It's very complicated how you have to dress for an honor now. Mask on, talit on, head covering on. Except for the English readings, that's a slightly different dress, but I'll get to that when that comes in. But for the first Aliyah, chapter 5, verses 1 through 5, page 30 in here, we call upon Mom, Rachel Cooperman, who will be reading the Torah, and grandparents, Gabby and William Cooperman, for the Aliyah.
ויעזור ויגן וישיר לכל החוסים בו ונאמר אמן הכל עבו גודל אליהם בכבוד לתורה יעמדו רוחל בת גרשום ושרה ואהרון גוד בן מוישה יוסף במקום כהן מורש נתן תורה לעם ישראל בקדושתו ויתן מגדול אלוהיכם חיים כולכם היום.
Baruch Adonai Barak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar mikol amim ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. זה ספר תולדות אדם ביום ברוא אלוהים אדם בדמות אלוהים עשה אותו זכר ונקבה ברעם ויברך אותם ויקרא את שמם אדם ביום היברעם ויחי אדם 30 שנה ויולד בבלותו כצלמו ויקרא את שמו ויהיו ימי אדם אחרי הולידו את 800 שנה ויולד בנים ובנות ויהיו כל ימי אדם אשר חי 900 שנה ו30 שנה וימות.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher מסרננו תורה אמס וחיי עולם נתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
My memory is now jogged. I remember saying at Aaron's bar mitzvah, Ruth, you should read Torah more at the synagogue. So very, very well done. And thank you. And now, actually, Grandma is going to read Torah, Gabby Cooperman, and we call upon Uncle Mark Cooperman for the blessing, for the Aliyah. We're verses 6 through 8. Shet and Enosh, Seth and Enosh, not to be confused with Enoch, which actually isn't his name in Hebrew, but in English they look alike. That's this next group of generations. Chapter 5, verses 6 through 8.
יעמוד משה יוסף בן רוחל ואהרון גוף שני.
Baruch Adonai Barak.
Baruch Adonai Barak.
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. ויחסר 5 שנים ומעט שנה ויולד את אנוש. ויחסר אחרי הולידו את אנוש 7 שנים ו800 שנה. ויולדת בנים ובנות ויחוקו. בנות שנים, ויולדת בנים ובנות, ויולדת כל וכן שתים 10 שנה ושם ועוד שנה וימות.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. With the third Aliyah, we call upon cousin Hila Cooperman to read the Torah, and Kathy Tuckman for the blessing for the Aliyah. Verses 9 through 14, generations of Canaan and Mahalalel.
Yamdu, Elishaber ben Aaron, Kathy Bott, Helen Vajon, Shlishi,
Fourth Aliyah, verses 15 through 20, Mahalalel, Yared, which in English comes out as Jared, and Hanoch, which in English comes out as Enoch, but it's really Hanoch. And that's 15 through 20. We call upon Ruthie's best friend, at least best Hebrew school friend for sure, inseparable pretty much, Sarah Orr. And for the Aliyah, we a member of our congregation commemorating the York site today, called Charles Feldman.
Yama, Gabriel ben Shlomo Halevi, Revi'i,
הרבנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן.
אמן. ויחי מהלל 5 שנים ו60 שנה, ויולד את ירד. ויחי מהלל אחרי הולידו את ירד 30 שנה ו800 שנה, ויולד בנים ובנות. ויהיו כל ימי מהלל 560 שנה ו800 שנה, וימות. ויחי ירד 260 שנה ו100 שנה, ויולד את חנוך. ויחי ירד אחרי הולידו את חנוך 800 שנה, ויולד בנים ובנות. ויהיו כל ימי ירד 260 שנה ו900 שנה, וימות.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נתן בדרכנו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Fifth Aliyah, verses 21 through 24. Hanoch, walked with God, whatever that means. He had a particular relationship with God, and it says God took him. He doesn't die like the rest of them. He's one of, I think, 7 biblical figures, Elijah being the most well-known, who never really died. And we also have Shabbat, verses 21 through 24. We call upon Uncle and Grandfather David and Todd Feldhammer for the Aliyah, and for the Torah reading, we call upon Brother Aaron, who also reads on the high holidays for us.
Yamdu David ben Avner Barut Alan ben David Chamishi.
Baruch Adonai Barak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Barak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'charbanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Vayehi Chanach 560 shana. Vayoled et Metushelah, Vayitalech Chanach et Elohim. Acharei holidot Metushelah 300 shana, Vayoled benim ubanot. Vayehi kol yomei Chanoch 560 shana, ו300 shana. Vayitalech Chanoch et Elohim ve'einenu ki lekachoto Elohim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tokenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yasher Koach.
Yasher Koach. 25 through 31, Metushelach again. He's the oldest one. Lives to be 969 years old. Methuselah, you know him perhaps in English. Lemech and Noach. Noach, that's the guy with the ark. 25 through 31, we call upon cousin Bruce Tuckman to read the Torah, and great aunt and cousin Beth and Mikey Isaac. Sorry, I went to camp with him, so.
Yamdu Michael Benjamin ben Shalom b'Sheva v'bat Sheva bat Avner Barut Shishi.
Fuet Adonai HaBarach.
Baruch
Adonai HaBarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher b'charvanu mikol hamim. V'natanu la'torah. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vayechem et Shalach. Sheva u'shmonim shana u'me'at shana vayoled et lamech vayechim et Shalach acharei holido et lamech shitayim u'shmonim shana u'sheva me'ot shana vayoled banim u'vanot vayu kol yemei Metushalach tesha v'shishim shana u'tisha'a me'ot shana vayamot Vayechil lamech shitayim u'shmonim shana u'mi'at shana vayoled bein vayikra et shemo Noach lemor zeh yinachamenu mima'aseinu u'meitzvon yadeinu min ha'adama asher erira Adonai Vayechil lamech acharei holido et Noach 590 שנה ו500 שנה ויולד בנים ובנות ויהי כל ימי למך 77 שנה ו700 שנה וימות.
Baruch Atah Adonai. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet. V'chayei olam notah b'tocheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Seventh Aliyah, chapter 5, verses 32 through 6-8. Now we get the odd part, the bizarre part, the B'nai Elohim and the Nephilim. Essentially, in this part of the story, these godlike figures take human wives, and the result are giants. And this is the reason given, or one of the reasons given, why humanity became so corrupt that they had to build an ark and start over again with Noah and his family. I think the general import of the story is that we need a separation between human and divine. Just the whole idea doesn't mix. So that's 5:32 through 6:8. Susan, who is also Ruthie's tutor, will be reading the Torah, and we call upon Mom and Dad, Rachel Cooperman and John Feldhammer, for the Aliyah. Sandy Barlow is going to step up and be the other shomer for Susan.
Yamdu, Racha Aaron Good, Baruch B'Tzion, Ben David B'Dina, Shvi'i.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher b'char banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et toratu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vayhi Noach ben 500 שנה ויולד נוח את שם את חמיר יפת ויהי כל חכר כי חכר אדם לרוב בני האדמה ובנות הולדו להם ויראו בני אלוהים את בנות אדם כי טובות הנה ויקחו להם נשים מכל אשר בחרו ויאמר אדוני לא ידון רוחי באדם לעולם ושגם ובשר והיו ימיו 120 שנה הנוכלים היו בארץ וימים עליהם וגם אחרי כן אשר יבואו בני אלוהים אל בנות אדם וילדו להם המה גיבורים אשר מעולם אנשי השם וירא אדוני כי רבה רעות אדם בארץ וכל יצר מחשבות ליבו רק כל היום וינחם אדוני כי עשה את האדם בארץ את האדם אשר בראתי ועל פני האדמה ואדם עד בהמה עד רמס ידו בשמיים כי נקמתי כי עשיתי ונוח מצא חן בעיני אדוני.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
We rise briefly for the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yikadav, Yikadash, Merabah.
Amen.
Adibrak, Yertev, Yamlif, Malchutev,
V'chayir hod yomechon, U'vayed echol bet Yisrael. Adrala, U'gizman Rarim. Amen. Yesh Merabah Nevarah.
Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitari, Ramandi, Yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitaleh, Yitaleh, Shemei Kurishah, Ve'ela, Min Kol Berchata V'Shirata,
Tushefata v'nechemata, Damiram ve'alma. Amen.
We may be seated. We repeat verses 6 through 8 for the Machzor as we formally call our Bat Mitzvah. Ruthie Feldhammer. Tamod, Tamod, Tamod. Machoret Bat Mitzvah. Ruth Bat Zion V'Rachel. Maftir Chazak.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Vayar Adonai ti rabah ran ha'adam ba'art v'chol yitzeh machshavo libo v'akra kol hayam. Vayinahem Adonai ki asat ha'adam ba'art vayitzav el libo. Vayomer Adonai emcha et ha'adam asher barati me'al pnei ha'adama me'adam ad behema ad ramat ya'oz hashamayim ki nimsamti Yasiti V'noah Matzahem V'nei Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yeshua. Thank you. Beautifully done, Ruth. Inclusive blessing for all who read. Mishaber Chavatenu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Sarah Korach Avaleah. V'yivrechet kol hakruim asher alu hayom lichvod hamakom lichvod haTorah v'lichvod haShabbat. HaKadosh Baruch Hu yivrech otam v'mishpachotam v'yishlach b'havatzacha v'chomes edim kol shelechem v'nomar. Amen. We're thinking of those who are ill in our community. We wish to add to our prayers Scott Lawrence, Talia Bat Razel, Barbara Rose, Lou Burl, Ilya Oak, Karina Gola Bat Hadav Yehuda Tzvi, Leah Hudit Bat Shena, Shabtai Dov Ben Shimon Moshe, Emmanuel Ben Sarah, Ray Ramshaw, Missy Rosen, Albert Alter, Rosa German, Leah Bat Shimon Nazar, Justin Hardy, Yechiel Ben Eliza, Eva Abrams Heimowitz, Martin Rosenthal, Shulamit Bat Leah, Miriam Bat Yehudit, Adele Mendelson, David Snyder, Marina Gottschalk, Carmel Oria Bat Ariel Sarah, Leah Bat Fredel of Azalman, Jeffrey Wade, Deborah Bar Avraham Basara, Yonah Yosef Ben Shmuel, Jackie Cohen. If any other names who are ill, go ahead and say them out loud at this time. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Ishemera imotenu mekor abraha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. This time we rise for the lifting and dressing of the Torah, the Haggadah, and Galila. We call upon cousin and friend Elliot Stein and Laura Eckstein.
Yamod Aviatamod Amalet.
Zon HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Lifnei Bnei Yisrael Al Pi Adonai B'yad Moshe. Eitz Hayim L'Machazik Yimba Betom Ve'amer Shar.
Eitz Hayim L'Machazik Yimba Betom Ve'amer Shar. Yerafe'am Racheinoam Ve'hom Tirotei HaShalom. Yerafe'am Racheinoam Ve'hom Tirotei HaShalom. Turn to the Haftarah. The concluding textual reading is from the prophet Isaiah. Haftarah is a word that means conclusion, and you will find it on page 36, double high. Ruthie will be going from 42:5 through 42:21, which appears to be only part of it, but it's actually the whole thing with the Sephardic version, and we always take the shorter, or almost always take the shorter one if we can. It's still plenty long, though, I assure you. And the connection to the Torah portion is it's another view of creation. It's Isaiah's talking about how God created the world, and that's a portent of the sort of recreation as the Jewish people who are in exile or about to be exiled will come back together and will turn to a new Garden of Eden, in a sense. When Ruthie is done chanting the Haftarah and its blessings, we're going to stand at our seats and sing Siman Tov and Mazel Tov. We're going to clap our hands to the rhythm of the song. All right, once again, page 36.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar b'nbi'im tovim v'ratzah b'divreihem v'ne'emar b'emet Baruch atah Adonai, Haboher b'Torah, u'Moshe avdo, u'Yisrael amo, u'Linyeh ha'emet v'tzedek. Kol ha'el Adonai, borei hashamayim v'nehotehem, roka ha'aretz v'tzetzecha, notei neshama le'am alecha, v'ruach l'elohim ba'ani Adonai, kirticha v'tzedek v'yotzek v'yodecha v'tzorcha v'tanha, livrit am v'yorgoyim, livka inayim livrot, l'chotzi nimasker asir, v'bei kala yoshvei choshev, ani Adonai hu shmi, uchladi li'aher lo'iten, utilati lapzili, harishonot hineva'u, v'chadashot ani magid, v'terem titzmachna ashmi'a ethem, shir regel Adonai shir hadash, tehillah misei haaretz, yodei hayom u'ma'am, im beyoshvehem, yisrael midbar b'ram, hazerim tashav kedar, yaronu yoshvei salah, verosh harim yitzvachel, yasimu Adonai kavod, yutilato ba'yim yogidu. Adonai kagibor yitzay, ke'ish milchamot ya'ir kina, yavia af yatzvia, ha'or ba'git gabar, ha'shiti me'olam, ha'harish atapad, ha'yoleda echad, ha'sham v'shav yachad, ha'harim u'ra'ot, v'hol esmam avish, v'samtim echad ra'layim, v'alamim ovish, v'cholachti ivrim. B'derech lo yada'u, v'tivot lo yadu adjuhem, asim, makshad livnehem la'or, u'ma'kashim lamishor, elahad marim, asitim v'la'azavtim, nasotu ahor, yivoshu v'shat, Habotim b'pasal, halamim u'masachat, ha'meloheinu, ha'gershim timadu, v'ha'ivrim ha'piti lirot, mi'ivir kinimavdi, v'cherash kamalti esla, mi'ivir kintulam, v'ivir kavod Adonai, ra'ot rabot v'lo tishmor, hakol oznayim v'lo yishma, Adonai hafez l'man tzikav, yadil Torah v'yadir. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, tzor kol ha'olanim, tzadik b'chol hadarot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer v'yosei, ha'medaber u'mchayed, shekol devarot, emet v'tzadak, ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu, v'ne'eman min devarecha, v'devar echad midvarecha, achor lo yashuv v'kam, ki el-melech ne'eman, v'chaman atah, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'ne'eman b'chol devarah. Rohem al sion ki beit hayenu, v'la'alu vat nefesh toshiyah, v'yimhira v'yameinu. Baruch atah Adonai, mesameach Sion v'vanaha. Sanheinu Adonai Eloheinu, Eliyahu hanavi avdecha, u'malchut beit David mishihacha, yimhira yavo v'yagel libeinu, al kiseh lo yeshav zar, v'lo yinhalu echarim at kivado, ki b'shem kodshcha nishbatalo, shelo yithbit nera le'lam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen David, Al HaTorah, V'al HaVodah, V'al HaMi'im, V'al Yom HaShabbat Hazeh, Shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, L'kedusha v'limuah, L'chavod u'tifaret, Al HaKol Adonai Eloheinu, אנחנו יודעים ומברכים אותה, יתברך שמך לפי כל חי תמיד ולעם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
All right, you can sit down and relax for a few minutes. Still quite a bit more to do for you, but for a few minutes you can relax and we can be seated. And we will turn back in our prayer book, back in our Siddur, to some of the additional prayers. We're going to be on page 223, the prayer for our country on 223, and we call upon Grandmother Diane Feldhammer. Just come up to the center of Bima.
Our God and God of our ancestors, we ask you to bless our country, its government, its leaders, its citizens, and its land. We offer a prayer of gratitude for the precious gift of living in a land blessed with sublime physical beauty, individual freedom, and economic abundance, and a rich, magnificent history. We offer a prayer of thanksgiving for those who came before us, those whose words, decisions, and sacrifices created a strong and vibrant nation. We acknowledge that there are those in our country who are suffering as well. We offer a prayer of hope for those whose cups are empty, for those whose freedoms have been curtailed, and for those who have not been able to share fully in all our country's blessings. Breathe. We offer a prayer of support to the leaders of our government, understanding that leading a nation with such a diversity and freedom is a difficult and daunting task. We offer a prayer of action to the citizens of our nation, that we may understand our obligation to be involved in making our country a better place for all who live here. Our God and God of our ancestors, bless our country, our government, our leaders, our fellow citizens, and our land. And let us say Amen.
Amen. Yashikoah. We'll call upon Aunt Kim Cooperman for a prayer for peace on page 225.
May it be your will before you, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, to abolish wars and the spilling of blood from this world, and continue great peace and miracles in the world, so that nation will not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they study war anymore, so that they will come to recognize and know, all who dwell on earth, the singular truth that we have not come into this world for dispute and conflict, nor for hatred, jealousy, provocation, or bloodshed. We have come into this world only to know you, to bless you eternally. Therefore you will have compassion upon us and fulfill for us that which is written in Scripture. I will bring peace to the land, and you will lie down, and there is no terror, and I will remove evil beasts from the land, and destruction will not cross into your land. Let justice flow like water, righteousness like a mighty stream. Let the earth be filled with the knowledge of Adonai, and the waters fill the sea. And let us say,
Amen. Yashikoah. So today we have the blessings for the new month. It's on page 227. Marshall, you want to come up and hold the Sefer Torah? We're going to rise for that prayer. The month of Cheshvan, although we say Mar Cheshvan for this prayer, begins on Wednesday and Thursday, Yom Revi'i V'Yom HaChamishi. Yehi ratzon milfanecha, Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei Avoteinu, Shetchadesh Aleinu et HaChodesh Haba L'Tova v'Livracha, V'titen lanu Chaim Aruchim, Chaim shel Shalom, Chaim shel Tova, Chaim shel Bracha, Chaim shel Parnasah, Chaim shel Chilutz Atzamot, Chaim sheyesh b'hem yirat shamayim v'yirat ched, Chaim she'ein b'hem busha u'chlima, Chaim shel oshe v'chavod, Chaim she'tihei banu avat Torah v'yirat shamayim, Chaim she'imalu mishalom libeinu le'tova. Amen. Selah. Mishasana nisim lavotenu ugalotam me'avdut b'cherut uyigalotanu b'karov v'kabetz l'chenu me'avat kanfot haaretz chavrim kol Yisrael v'nomar Amen. Rosh Chodesh Mar Cheshvan yeh b'yom ha'revi'i v'yom ha'chamishi haba aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael l'tova. Chadshei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Aleinu Ve'al Kol Alma Beit Yisrael L'chaim U'Shalom L'sason U'Simcha L'Yeshua U'Nechama V'Nomar Amen. Chodesh Tov, may it be a happy new month. As Marshall prepares to put the Torah away, we invite our 8th graders to come up and help Ruth lead Ashrei. So come on up. It's on page 231. The rest of us may be seated. Now, I know a couple of them were very uncertain. So, a couple of things. First of all, this class, because all the B'nai Mitzvah were during the pandemic, and really, some didn't even know that they were supposed to do Ashrei altogether, but that is indeed what's happening. I also want to remind people, if you are, to make sure no phone usage, and please make sure your mask is covering your nose as well as mouth. All right, page 231, Ashrei.
Ashrei Yoshe Beitecha, Oyer Halu Hasela. Tehila LeDavid, Aroim HaElohim HaMelech, V'Har Hashikva Le'olam Ba'ed. Gadol Adonai Kulam Me'od, V'Eli Gdoato Ein Heker. V'divrei miflotecha asicha. Zecher raktucha yabiu, v'zikatecha yeranenu. Tov Adonai lecho, v'rachamav kol ma'asav. Sadik Adonai bechol derachav, v'chassid bechol ma'asav.
So Ruth, yeah, you're going to stay up there, and in a moment you'll be carrying the Torah on the way back, but we'll start with Marcia. Why don't you just take the Torah now? We'll hold that Torah after she does Mizmor David. We're going to invite, I believe it is Carol Bear and Gideon Moore to stand by the ark in preparation for its opening. Please rise. Please rise. Evaluate Shem Adonai, Kiniskav Shem Levato, Eretz V'Shamayim, Vayarem Keren Le'alo, Tehillah Lechol Chasidav, Livnei Yisrael Ankero, Hallelujah, Hallelujah.
Mizmor LeDavid.
Deliver the drash, the sermon of the morning. Give her a minute to get that out. Ready?
Okay, hello. Have you ever thought about the generations that came before you? Not your grandparents or your great-grandparents, but the ones that came thousands of years ago, like Methuselah, who lived to the age of 969. Today's parsha is called Bereshit, and it comes from Genesis chapters 5 and 6. The part we read today is not about the creation of the world, or the Adam and Eve story, but it is mostly a list of generations that followed Adam and Eve. It goes all the way down to Noah, you know, the guy with the ark. Many of the people listed are not well known to us. I'm going to focus on the generations of ancients listed in Bereshit. For many of the people listed, we only know their age, how old they were when they had children, and the names of some of their children. Many of the women are unnamed, and the Torah doesn't tell us any stories about these people. The first thing I noticed when reading my portion was how long the people lived. Today we think of people living long lives when they live past 100, but in my parsha, the people lived amazingly long lives of hundreds of years. What does it feel like to be 900? Rambam says that after God created Adam and Eve, people in the world were more perfect until things fell apart with Noah. Did they get wiser with age, or were they more likely to sin, which is why God shortened their lifespans? What would I do if I could live to 900? Would I be bored? Would I create great things? Go to school more? Some rabbis believe that the descendants of Adam had to live to 900 because they had bigger souls with greater missions. Are we that different from our ancestors? Are our souls just pieces of theirs? The generations that came before me and my family didn't live to 900, but lived long and accomplished lives. My great-grandparents escaped the Nazis and started their lives over, some in New York and some in South America. How do you count the years when you have to start your life over in a foreign land? Ruth Feldhammer, my great-grandmother, who I named after, had to start her life again after her father died. And we still don't know her real age. 96, maybe 102. Every family and every person has important stories. They're much more than a name and an age on a list. Does age matter more or the life lived? I believe that even though our lives are shorter, it doesn't mean we have less potential to create great things. As part of my bat mitzvah, I am participating in the Remember Me project, which connected me with the name of a child lost in the Holocaust. Like our ancestors in the Torah, I only know her name and age. Talia Flakesman, born in Ukraine, who died at age 12 in the Shoah. I'll remember her every year on the anniversary of my bat mitzvah. As I start my life as a Jewish adult, while I don't plan on living to 969, like Ms. Busala, I'm going to focus on tikkun olam, or improving the world through social responsibility, whether it's cleaning the forest or baking for my family and community. In conclusion, I would like to thank Susan Simon and Rabbi Bloom, who helped through years of Hebrew school and tutoring. Imagine how long Hebrew school would be if we all lived to 900. I would also like to thank my parents for always being there for me and forcing me to practice, and my brother, who helped only by having a bat mitzvah before me. I want to thank my family and friends for traveling, participating in the service, and supporting me throughout this journey. Finally, I would like to thank my grandparents, Ollie and Saida, and Grandma and Grandpa, who were always there cheering me on. I am proud to be the next generation in this family and of the Jewish people. Shabbat Shalom.
Just go ahead and stay there. And first, I'm going to invite the President of the congregation, David Goodwin, to say a few words and present you with some gifts.
Come over here. Also tall for everything, you could probably, who knows whether 6 feet matters anymore, but I mean, just yesterday attended an unmasked outdoor reception, which was very odd. And this, I should add, is, I believe, our first indoor bar bat mitzvah since February of 2020. So it's wonderful to be here with all of you. You did beautifully, you read beautifully. I really think you have a real perception for text interpretation. Because you really had some insights, and this may be a career in English literature, it may be a career in law, it may be something completely different, but you should pursue it, and I do hope you read again at another service. We have gifts on behalf of the Board of Directors of Temple Beth Abraham, the Men's Club, and the Women of TBA, which I will not get out, but will leave for you, and we have many congratulations, and we are very privileged to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. Stay there, I have a few more words for you. So technically, actually, there was one bar mitzvah which was inside during the pandemic because of weather-related things. It was the 25 or fewer kind of bar mitzvah that we were having at the time. Your classmate, Kash Bornstein. But thank you for returning us to a sense of normalcy today. I hope we can keep it going. You know, one never knows. That's one of the greatest lessons of the pandemic is it's a day-to-day life. Things can change in a hurry. But for giving us this sense today of being normal here in the sanctuary, Ashrei happening, and all kinds of cousins doing aliyot, and a relatively pandemic-sized full house. So we really appreciate that very much. So I have a few things that I want to add in terms of the Torah portion and who you are. You were talking about the various generations, and we have these lists of names. We don't really have their stories, right? And what is their story? You did a wonderful, I was really moved by talking about your great-grandmother and her story and the fake age or lying about the age. A lot of people of that generation, we don't really know how old they ever were, and that's part of your family story. And I'm going to get back to that in a second. But I also want to talk about the part of the Torah portion that wasn't read today. And this is about your family and about you, because the parts that we didn't read, Adam and Eve's story, the Cain and Abel story, there's an evasion of responsibility by those characters, right? Adam and Eve, they eat from the fruit. Adam basically says, Eve made me do it, right? Totally evading responsibility. And when Cain actually kills his brother Abel after they get in a fight, God says, where's your brother? And he says, I don't know, am I my brother's keeper? And the lesson of those portions is that's not what you do, okay? You do the opposite. You take responsibility. And your parents have done that with what they do for a living, right? In terms of caring for the community as a physician and helping other people as a lawyer, and at one point even making sure people took responsibility working for the IRS, right? So all of this is about responsibility. And that trait that your dad was talking about in you, the stubbornness, which we actually call in Hebrew kashinu oref, stiff-necked. The Jews are considered as stiff-necked people without the Torah. Most of the time that's not a compliment, but sometimes it really is. And like, I still want you to listen to your parents. I especially want you to listen to me and Susan Simon if we need something from you. But the stubbornness that you have, the drive, the dedication, that's such a part of you, we of course want you to keep that up too. And that is in line with your Jewish ancestors being a part of a stiff-necked people. Now, what else is it about your story, right? So I remember a few things very well. I've known you since you were born, I believe, and I have distinct memories of you in the preschool and in Beit Sefer. I said this in Sarah's Bat Mitzvah too, but I can't think of you going through our school system without Sarah by your side. The two of you, your own secret language. I don't even know what it was, but sometimes, the two of you, you'd be off. Couldn't tell whether you were paying attention or mumbling to each other. It was hard to actually distinguish between the two. But those are the two goals of the Hebrew school anyway. We want you to learn, and we want you to have fun. We want you with your friends, especially. So you did those things very well. You have an amazing smile, which you've always had, a sense of sarcasm and humor, which I delight in. I think is absolutely fantastic. And today, we saw how your brain works, too, and the insights that you were able to share with us. And so, I can't wait to see this emerge. As you continue to grow as a teenager, of course you're going to grow physically, and in a moment I'm going to be putting my hands on your head for the blessing, and I can barely reach them as it is. But looking at your family, you're going to grow, of course, not only in physical stature, you're going to continue to grow in intellectual and emotional development, and you're already fantastic, right? So we just really appreciate having you here. I can't remember the name of the artist, but there's a song called Unwritten, which pop song from the early 2000s. And today you talked about the story of our ancestors, the story of your ancestors, and you gave us a little bit of insight into the beginning of the story of your life. The rest is still unwritten, and we'll see when they list your name in the generations someday, when you live to be, well, let's say 120 instead of 969. I can't wait to know what is in the next, whatever 120 minus 13 is, 107. All right, so we're going to go up to the ark now, and we're going to offer the blessing. Leave your book here for a moment. I'm going to ask you to please rise. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May God lift the divine face toward you. Pray in peace. Amen. Remain standing, and Ruthie, you've got one more service to lead. Our Musaf service begins with the Chatzi Kaddish on page 239.
Shmei Rabba. Amen. Yamatika Hirtev Yamach Mahite. Continuing with the Amidah. Adonai Sefatetivta Ufi Akitahilataha Baruch atah Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei
Continue on around page 247 through 258. Page 259, the Kaddish Shalem.
Yikadal Yikadash Me'Rabba.
Amen.
Yamati Velkite Yamachmakite. Hayachonu Yamachonu Hayadacho Be'Yisrael. Hagala Yisman Peri Vimeru.
Amen.
Amen.
After car, hang out for a second. Maybe you'll be leading Elena in again. I know you're leading the closing song, but we have some younger kids coming up right behind you for Ain Kelahenu. Come on where I am. Actually, why don't you come right here instead? Come right in the center there. Right up there. All right, David, you want to do the presidential duty, which you haven't really gotten to do, which is hand out the Ain Kelahenu candy. Especially today of following people: Edwin Ames, Aaron Berkowitz, Dr. James Cohen, Hyman Cohen, Evelyn Helps Kushner, Beth Latore, Sarah DeVoren, Ruth Eskin, Ira Michael Feltman, my Aunt Blossom Goldfarb, Sadie Goodman, Alan Green was a real fixture of our congregation, and it's his 1-year yard site. Sidney Samuel Hertz, Louis Huberman, Steve Janger, Isaac Kessler, Alice Klein, Maurice Clevens, Susan Ames Klinger, Morris Cuff, Fanny Landy, Anita Levine Litwack, Dorothy Lutz, Mike Marchak, Victor Mendelson, Betty Paul Katz, Donald Rapson, Ben Rusk, Jeanette Ames Stern, Fanny Sussman, Abraham J. Weisbrod, Harry Winchell. We are in the Shloshim, the 30-day mourning period for Ruth Glazer, the mother of Stephen Glazer, Marilyn Golden, and Cantor Richard Catholic. In memories of all who are with us, we ask all those who are in mourning or observing yahrzeit, as well as anyone else who would choose to do so, to rise from the mourner's cottage, which is on page 267. Yit Gadal v'Yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah Ve'el Mahadi V'Rad Hirutei Ve'el Liv Malchutei V'Chayek Ma'od V'Yomei Ma'od V'Chayek V'Od Beit Yisrael V'Galav V'Zman Karib V'Imru Yehei Shemei Rabbah V'Orah Le'olam Ve'el Maya Yitbarach V'Yishtavat V'Pahar V'Pramam V'Naseh V'Tadar V'Taleh V'Talal Shemei Kudsha La'ela Mikol Berchata V'Shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata, Tamiran v'yalma v'imru. Yehei shlama rabba bin shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Oseh shalom b'mroma, v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Tikunam d'bracham, in the memory of the people who come to say Kaddish for me, blessed for always, and to say Amen. Blessing to all of you. All right, a few announcements. First of all, there's a Kiddush lunch immediately following this service. That is definitely the first time in like 19 months. And yeah, it's quite exciting. Here's the procedure. You're going to go out the back, the center, and you're going to go down the stairs there, and then in the social hall, you'll pick up food, which you're not to take yourself, but will be given to you by servers. Then you take your food and you eat outside. There are shaded canopies. It's still going to be hot over there. If you want not to sit by any people, like at a table, because there are other people there, like me, I'll be sitting around picnicking on my own on the grass, okay? When I'm ready to talk to people, I'll put my mask back on. That's my COVID safety comfortability level. But so you can sit in the hot, but if you want shade, you're gonna have to sit at a table probably, with other people. But we've got that whole area. Feel free to take advantage of it. Tomorrow, and thank you, of course, John and Rachel for sponsoring the Kiddush. Is that? And the grandparents who sponsor the Kiddush. So thank you to all the grandparents, the Cooperman and Feldhammer grandparents, for sponsoring the Kiddush for our congregation. Tomorrow, adult education begins with Mitzia Shaket at 10 a.m. Susan, is it in person or it's?
The first section's on Zoom. We'll try to take a poll and see how people feel.
Got it. First session on Zoom. We have our weekly text study resumes at 9 a.m. It will be in the same house that we've been having it for a while. If you want to come, please, it's in their back door, outdoor patio. Call me, email me, and we will all get you all the information. But we are possibly moving to a cafe soon. All right, let's see, what else do we have? Adult TV Book Club, Wednesday, October 6th. Contact Judy Blick for details. Men's Club Poker, Thursday, October 7th. And we also have the beginning of Adult Hebrew is starting on Wednesday, October 13th. Morning Minyan continues every Monday and Thursday at 8 a.m. Next Saturday, Dahlia Street becomes Bat Mitzvah. And the week after that, I believe Ezra Graham becomes Bar Mitzvah. Do I have the week wrong, or is that it? Is it 2 weeks away? As far as we know? Okay. Ezra doesn't know. But he's ready. Okay. Most weeks will be B'nai Mitzvah through middle November. And we're going to do a closing song now. Hallelu Avdei Adonai on page 271, which Ruthie and Sarah will be leading. Stay here. Don't leave after the song. We're going to do Motzi and Kiddush up here, so you can then go right away to get them.
Hallelujah, 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 Adonai, hallelujah, dear, hula, Adonai, hallelujah, 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 Adonai, hallelujah, Baruch, Baruch, hula, Adonai, hallelujah, 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 Adonai, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah,
Please rise for Kiddush. Ruthie, come on up. Aaron, John, Rachel. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael Shabbat la'asot Shabbat David b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam oti le'olam V'shamru b'nei Yisrael Shabbat la'asot Shabbat Masana Hashemayim ve'et ha'aretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael Shabbat la'asot et ha'shabbat v'yom hashvi Shabbat v'yinafash Shabbat v'yinafash v'shamru b'nei Yisrael Shabbat la'asot et Shabbat Bikachehu, Savri, L'chaim, Rukatan Island, Mahalam, Barik Regafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. B'tei Shabbat Shalom and Mazel Tov.